A frequent contributor to the Tide 99.1 lineup, former host on this station, Martin Houston. Good morning, Martin.
Good morning, Gary. How you doing, sir?
Good to talk to you, and I wish we were talking under better terms. The reason I'm having you on primarily, though, is to reminisce about a good friend of yours, a mentor of yours, a guy that you played with for 3 years, and also played the same position and then took over as the starter when he left, and your team went to a national championship in 1992, but I've always felt like that 91 team kind of set the table for that championship run in 92. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But first, though, to bring people up to speed in case they don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, Kevin Turner, former Alabama and NFL fullback, passed away yesterday from ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, at the age of 46. He had fought the good fight. He had done a lot for awareness, but lost his battle yesterday, and I know that hits you pretty hard, Martin.
Yeah, Gary, anytime, there's a loss, when someone that you've been in the trenches with the way Kevin and I were, it's definitely devastating. And just to see, the fight that he put up, which, as you said, was a good fight, but yet to see what it did to his body, and it really takes something that's out there and makes it personal, and makes it real. Because sometimes, you can get lost in the politics of Lou Gehrig's disease and head injuries and all of that stuff. You can get lost in that, the political aspect of it. But just losing a dear friend and a brother in arms, it definitely is a tough situation.
He made the choice early on when he was diagnosed, knowing his position as a former NFL player. He could have done this low-key, but he decided to use his disease as a platform for awareness, take it very public. And, of course, early on when he had the disease, he could still talk about it. And I'll say this right off the bat. He never blamed football. He did say that he thought it was a contributor. And he said, obviously, if he had had more knowledge in those days and if he had known this was going to happen to him, he probably would not have played football. But, of course, he didn't know, and he never blamed it. At the same time, I do think he did a lot, as have other former NFL players that have had this disease, to make people aware that the game of football, while being a great game, the goal should always to make it more safe, and that has happened. But there's no doubt in his mind, and no doubt in my mind, that playing a sport like football for that many years can contribute to a disease like ALS. You agree, Martin?
Yeah, I think that Kevin's approach probably, though, is one of the most balanced approaches I've seen to this. I've heard guys immediately go, well, my kids will never play. And then football did this to me. And what I have to do is say I applaud Kevin for the approach he took, because he recognized what football had done for him, and he did not nullify all of that because of the disease he had, while at the same time acknowledging that it very well could have contributed to the onset of ALS. And because of that approach, it allows us to see, hey, let's take safety into consideration, but let's also recognize that there may be other things that contributed to this, and football just exasperated his condition. And I think that's the message he tried to convey, because we know that, he didn't prevent his children from playing the game that he loved, and that he also felt like gave him contributed to the disease. So I like I said, I applauded Kevin from start to finish on his bout, because he did bring it to a more personal level and a more public level, and a conversation level that made sense, where there could be some things done to help it.
Yeah, in fact, his oldest son, Nolan, just signed this year with Clemson to play college football for Turner's old college teammate and your old teammate, Dabo Swinney. So obviously he was not anti-football. Let's get into Kevin Turner, the man that you knew the teammate that you had. He came out of Prattville High School, and people think of him as a big burly fullback. But Martin, and I know he was there when you got there, but he was only about 186 pounds when he finished down there at Prattville High School. He built himself into a big fullback, but he was not a burly plotter at all. We remember in 1989 under Homer Smith. I mean, I think he caught 50-something passes. He could run over you, but he had, you see a big white guy and you think, well, he's slow and he's not athletic, but that wasn't the case with Kevin at all, was it, Martin?
No, it wasn't. What was funny, Gary, and this is probably the first time I've ever really talked to anybody about it. When I was being recruited, you look at the guys who were there, and here's Kevin. I saw he had gotten a little bigger, but he was still, when I was, coming to the games, he was still, that first year that he even played was probably 205. And I'm going, this guy, man, he can't be a fullback. He's not big enough, In my mindset, I was thinking, I can beat him out. and him along with several other guys. Well, by the time I got here, he had beefed himself up to about 215. He was rock hard, but he never lost the speed. And that was probably one of the things that most people missed about Kevin Turner at Alabama is they did not realize how good of an athlete he was. His 40 time was unbelievably fast, but his explosion in the weight room is what I admired when I first got here, because I would see that frame, even though he was big to most people, to me he was not big for the position. And then he built, as you say, built into it. But I would watch him in the weight room and go, oh, my God. And this guy was such a competitor, so driven to be the best. And as they say, that toughness you saw that he went through in this fight with ALS is the toughness that I grew to love and admire as a teammate and a friend.
The 92 team will always be remembered because there had been some tough times after Coach Bryant. Then that team would win that national championship 13 years after the last one in 79, and another one wouldn't be won again until 2009 when Coach Saban got here, and that was 17-year gap. So for so long, there was an entire generation of Alabama fans. The 92 team was the team that they remembered. That was the last national championship team. It was the only one post-Bryant era until Coach Saban. And it's a special team. But I want to go back to 91 because there were guys on that team like Kevin Turner, John Sullins, others that didn't get to hang around for 92. Yet that 91 team, I always felt like kind of set the table for you guys in 92 from the standpoint, early on you took a real butt kicking down at Florida. Got hammered. And after the 90 season, even though there was a toughness that Stallings brought, it was still just a 7-win season. There was still a lot of doubts as to where this program was going. And after the loss to Florida, it seemed like that's when the tables turned. That 91 team didn't lose again. It went 11-1, a lot of championship players were on that squad, and it kind of laid the foundation for 92. Did you always feel like that, Martin, playing on that team with Kevin Turner and some of those guys that were seniors that year?
Yes, they absolutely set the table, and of course they don't get the national championship, but they set a mindset that taught us how to finish and how to win. But after that humiliating loss to Florida, they called a players only meeting, and one of the things that came out of that meeting was, are we Alabama? If we're Alabama, let's play like Alabama. Because if you go back, Gary, we had the humiliating loss on television to Louisville in the bowl game, and what the players affectionately called the Fiasco Bowl instead of the Fiesta Bowl. and then we had that humiliating loss to Florida. That was 2 out of our last 3 games. And so that senior class did not want that to be their legacy, and they called that players-only meeting. And that next week we were playing Georgia at night at Bryant-Denny. I think that may have been the first night game. It was I think if I remember correctly, but they set the tone. And from that point on, that team didn't lose the game. The next year team didn't lose a game. And it was the LSU game before there was not a win. So it went on like this 28, but it started with those leaders challenging us and calling us into account of being Alabama. And to me, no player represents Alabama football more than Kevin Turner. I mean, just the hard-nosed, never die, never quit attitude, but also smart, a smart football player, an intelligent football player, and tough as nails, but with the talent, of these 4 and 5 stars that we see today.
Well, he's going to leave quite a legacy, and one thing I want to ask you about in closing, and I didn't know him well. I had met him, but none of us are perfect. We all know that. But right. This is a guy that, and not just because he had ALS, even before when he was, healthy and you would see him and he was, just a big strapping guy, could have been intimidating if he wanted to be, but I've never really heard anyone say a bad word about him in terms of his character, what kind of person he was, how humble he stayed even after playing 8 years in the NFL, and not just former Alabama teammates, but former Patriots and Eagles teammates coming out yesterday and praising his character and the quality of teammate, as you mentioned that he was. And, that speaks highly of Kevin Turner. It's always when you're gone, not just about being remembered, but how you're remembered. And he's remembered fondly, not just as being a great football player, but as being a great human being, too.
Well, and that's, I think part of that is what made him a great football player. Gary, I owe so much of the football player I became in Alabama to him, and not so much from the football, but the character side of Kevin Turner. Here I was coming in, and I used to tell him every day, Kevin, I'm taking your job. For 3 years, it was Kevin Turner, Martin Houston. Well, Martin Houston wanted it to be Martin Houston, Kevin Turner. You know what I mean? But while I say that, I had no better friend on the team. And the thing that always amazed me and that helped me when I became the starter, reach back down to the other guys, was Kevin Turner reached down and helped Martin, the freshman, who didn't know, spent time coaching and teaching and helping. And everything he was pouring into me could have cost him his opportunity to play more. But he never saw it that way. He just saw it as, hey, man, we're teammates. I'm here to get better. I'm here to make you better. And as a result, the team would be better. And as you said, everybody that's ever played with him or associated with him, that was the type of guy he was. And also off the field, it was the same guy. He'd knock your teeth loose if he got an opportunity on the football field, but he wasn't going to do it in a dirty way. And if he had an opportunity to help you off the field, he was going to do that as well. And, I know that we've seen some images of Kevin, the guy in the wheelchair, but I choose to remember that big, as you called him, burly, hard-nosed fullback from Prattville, Alabama, that just absolutely was sensational here at the University of Alabama and in the NFL. But more than all of those things, I saw an interview that kind of reminded me of what's important. And he said, I'm not afraid to die because I'm ready and I've rekindled my faith. And even though Kevin Turner fought the good fight here, I'm excited to say that he's in a better place, and the aches and the pains and all of those things that he suffered over the last 5 years or so are better. I pray for his family because they still have to walk through this loss. And I pray that we remember Kevin and celebrate Kevin for what he did and what his life can continue to do as a result of his openness and his walk through this battle with ALS.
Well said, Martin. We could go on all day about Kevin Turner, but as you know well, in the radio business, we have to get to a break. But thank you so much for sharing those memories, and he'll be missed. And but as we said, he leaves a terrific legacy and has done a lot for ALS research and awareness. And even in death, he is donating his brain and spinal cord. So he will continue to do good work in that area. And we appreciate you taking time to talk about him. Thank you so much, Martin.
No doubt. And roll tide number 24 forever.